Hello and welcome to Food Tank's webinar series. My name is Sarah Small and I'm Food Tank's Chief of Staff. I'm really excited about today's webinar with Francesca Allievi. She is the Operational President of the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition Alumni Association. The BCFN Alumni Association has developed the Youth Manifesto, which is a set of policy recommendations from young people to different stakeholders in the food system. It serves as an immediate call to action, and Francesca will discuss this in further detail today. Food Tank has been honored to work with BCFN on multiple occasions, including the Food Tank Summit Series, reports, the Eating Planet book, which I'm sure Francesca will also elaborate on today. And Food Tank's president, Danielle Nierenberg, has also contributed to the Eating Planet book. We've also partnered on the BCFN's Young Earth Solutions, or BCFN Yes competition, which Francesca was also a finalist of in 2012, among many other collaborations. So we are truly honored to have Francesca here with us today, and we are excited to have listeners tuning in from around the world. So thank you for joining us. Just a few things before we begin. This webinar will be recorded and posted on foodtank.com later today, as well as our YouTube channel. You can also follow along and participate on Twitter using #FoodTank. Please also submit your questions. We'll have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A session with Francesca. You can submit your questions using the chat box, or you can email them directly to me, Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, @foodtank.com. So without further ado, Francesca, as I mentioned, it's really an honor to have you here today, and I'm excited to hear your presentation, so I'll give you the floor now.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here as well, and I'm very happy to have this webinar with you. As Sarah said, my name is Francesca, and I am the president of the BCFN Alumni Association. In this webinar, I'd like first to give you an overview of the BCFN Foundation, its activities, and then go into the detail of the BCFN Alumni Association and the call to action that I think each of you can respond to. So let's start by taking a look at the many challenges that our planet is facing today. We have, first of all, climate change, which is resulting in a reduction of cultivated surface area and also in a reduction of production levels. And at the same time, we also have problems with water management, because about 70% of the world water consumption is linked with agriculture. So of course, food production plays a major role in this. And we also have issues related to urbanization and population growth. And all these leads to some big paradoxes. For example, we have people dying of malnutrition or hunger, and then people fighting with obesity and diabetes. And we also have issues related to food waste and increase in meat consumption that poses pressure on grain production. And all this happens in an environment where on one hand, we have better food products formulation, and then on the other hand, we have a stricter legislation and food fears spreading. And if we stop just for a moment, I know that it feels like I've just delivered to you a huge load of bad news. Though many of you are probably already familiar with these problems, but unfortunately, this is the situation that we need to face. So the food system is complex, is faced with a number of challenges, and many of us are probably thinking, how can we do our part? How can we make this better? And today I would like to show you the call to action of the BCFN Alumni Association and the Eating Planet as well. So for those of you that are hearing this BCFN or Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition Foundation for the first time, it is an independent multidisciplinary center which aims at providing multiple outputs and contributions with a high scientific content and become over time a valuable tool for institutions, scientific community, media, and people. It aims at becoming a privileged meeting point for anyone that is interested in food, the environment, sustainable growth, and their implications on people's and society's life, of course, at both a national and international level. What makes BCFN unique is, first of all, the multidisciplinary approach. So it gathers experts from all fields. And then that it tackles and communicates complex food issues in a simple way, that the facts that it communicates are based on solid scientific evidence, it's open to everyone for contribution, and that its scope is global. This is an overview of the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition Foundation governance. As you can see, we have Danielle as one of our advisory board members. So you are probably already familiar with her. And you can see we have a number of experts from different disciplines. As I was saying before, it's a very multidisciplinary approach that BCFN is carrying on. The work of BCFN is focused around three main paradoxes that the current food system is facing. So the first one is the inequality in food distribution. So we have, on one hand, almost 800 million people who are undernourished, and then on the other hand, we have 2 billion people, over 2 billion people that are obese or overweight. So we have people dying for the lack of food on one hand, and people dying for too much food on the other hand. This is the first paradox. Then the second one is how to create a type of agriculture that would be sustainable, because the grain production should be divided into, of course, human consumption, but also animal consumption because of the rising meat demand, and then also biofuels production. And finally, we have the issue of food waste, with about 1/3 of global food production going to waste, which equals to about 4 times what it would take to feed those nearly 800 million people who are hungry. The BCFN underlines even more the close connection between food and the environment, with its flagship concept of good for you, good for the planet, which is explained through the double pyramid. We see it here in this picture. And I don't know if you've seen it before, but I think it's a very clear picture of the connection between nutritional values and environmental impact. So we have on the left the pyramid, food pyramid with nutritional recommendations. And then on the right, we have the environmental pyramid that summarizes the water footprint, carbon footprint, and ecological footprint of foodstuffs. So we can see that those foods which are recommended to be eaten in smaller quantities are also those with higher environmental impact, and vice versa. So I think this really gives a comprehensive picture of the problem. The double pyramid has been the object also of some dedicated publication by BCFN, together with many other publications, which discuss different aspects of the paradoxes that I described before. And all these publications can be downloaded for free from the BCFN website. These publications are just one of the ways in which BCFN engages with the civil society. Other ways are through social medias, through the production of articles for its web magazine, and so on. Another of the efforts that BCFN has been working on is the development of the Milan Protocol, which is a policy document that has 3 main objectives. So the first one is to ensure access to food for all and to fight obesity. The second is to support policies for the creation of sustainable agriculture. And the third objective is to end food waste. The Milan Protocol has been signed by a number of institutions and individuals, scientists, and so on. You can see part of them in this slide. And what you can see here is a reflection of what happened in the preparation phase of the Milan Protocol. So many contributions were received, and many of them were also included in the final text, because the Milan Protocol, I think it's really a good example of bottom-up approach. It took place in 2014, and it was mainly through this platform called milanprotocol.com. And the Milan Protocol also contributed to the Milan Charter, which was promoted by the Italian government, and it was delivered to the United Nations in October 2015 as a legacy of the Universal Exhibition, which was held in Milan last year, so in 2015. Let's see now how BCFN supports the younger generation and a bit deeper, like what are the issues that I focus on. So since 2012, BCFN has had a competition running named YES, or Young Her Solutions. And this competition is targeted to young researchers with ideas for the improvement of the food system. In the past editions, there have been a number of ideas for different fields, different countries. There have been multidisciplinary and international teams taking part. And I have also a very personal connection with the YES competition, because I was selected as one of the 10 finalists in the first edition in 2012 with an idea for a new food label that would include both environmental and nutritional information, as in the double pyramid. A lot has happened for me since then, and I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity, because it was the first time that I felt that I can really contribute to raising awareness towards how relevant are our daily food choices. Since this year, the YES competition is a bit different. It has changed a bit. It's now meant as a research grant call for PhD and postdocs. It's still structured in the same way, so there will be 10 finalist teams gathering during the next BCFN forum to try and win the prize, but it's targeted specifically to people with a strong academic background. The projects are under evaluation at the moment, but I know that many good applications were sent in, and that this year the projects are coming from an even larger amount of countries. So I think we will see very, very interesting ideas from an even wider network of researchers. YES is important also because all the finalists of the past editions are now BCFN alumni. So they form this active and multidisciplinary international community, and some of the alumni are involved also in the BCFN research projects. At the moment, we have 85 alumni from all the 5 continents, and they have education in a number of disciplines, ranging from economy to environmental engineering, design, etc. And many of them are really active. In 2016, they have participated to about 20 events, including scientific conferences, and some more events are planned for the next months, and they will be, once again, BCFN ambassadors. The BCFN alumni also contribute to the online magazine of the BCFN, and there are also already some active cooperations with other institutions, as you can see from the logos that I have reported in this slide. And now I would like to tell you a bit more about the first time that the BCFN alumni met all together. This happened last year in Parma, and what we did there was a 2-day workshop during which the alumni were divided into 7 groups corresponding to 7 different profiles, naming farmer, educator, food, business, media, NGO or activist, researcher, and policymaker. And what we did during those 2 days was to debate which should be the top policy recommendations, the top priority for each of these profiles. And the result is this youth manifesto that includes some very concrete proposals on how to make our planet more sustainable. And I would really like you to get a better feeling and idea of the process we had during the workshop by watching this first video about the youth manifesto. Sarah, if you could show that.
Of course. Here we go. Here we go.
These words are for you, and indeed anyone who calls planet Earth home. For you, policymaker, you farmer, you business person, journalist, activist, or researcher, they are for you, citizen.
Yes. So I hope that now you get a better idea of what we did there, and you don't hear just me talking, but you maybe hear all those 80 people that took part into that workshop. I think, as you could see, we had a very good energy, we had challenging discussions, and this was also thanks to the mentors that we had there. Danielle Nierenberg was one of them. You can see them in this slide. And you can see we had many good, very important names, and from a range of disciplines. So they really offered very good insights and suggestions. And again, here are some pictures from the workshops. And what we did the following day was to deliver immediately the Youth Manifesto to the Italian Minister of Agriculture, Maurizio Martina. He was also the delegate for the Universal Exhibition, Expo 2015. And there we delivered the Youth Manifesto also to different pavilions of different countries. And at the end of the day, we debated at the EU pavilion. We had some representatives of the EU institutions and some delegates that were involved in the Youth Manifesto preparation. We can see some pics now in the next slides. So here is a glimpse of the debate at the European Union Parliament. And here are some pictures of the delivery of the Youth Manifesto to pavilions of different countries. Another very important step for the Youth Manifesto was the debate that we had at the European Parliament in Brussels last December. If Sarah could maybe show the other video, we can get a better idea. Yes, so as you could see from the video, we were 4 of the BCFN alumni as delegates there at the European Parliament, and we presented the Youth Manifesto to a number of policymakers. At the end of the day, we had this debate, which we can also see here in the picture that I have on the slide. And in this debate, there were many different stakeholders. It was very exciting, very interesting. And for me personally, it was also very surprising because I could see that everyone that we met was very eager to listen to us, was very interested. And as a whole, this experience was very, very motivating to continue to be one of the BCFN alumni and be ambassadors of the Youth Manifesto. I have reported the full text of the Youth Manifesto in this slide and the next one. You can, of course, take a quick look while I'm talking, but I really invite each of you to go and download the document from the BCFN website and take your time to read it more carefully, because you will find a lot of very concrete suggestions. So, for example, about bringing young people back to farming, or commit to teaching all children about food sustainability, or again to have activists in the boards of companies and so on. So there is very specific, very concrete suggestions that have been made in this document for the future of the food system. You can also see here the logo of the Youth Manifesto and the hashtag that we use. And you can go to social media, especially social media of BCFN, and of course keep track through that hashtag of the other activities that are connected to the Youth Manifesto. So we have seen that the Youth Manifesto has some very practical proposals to improve the current situation of the food system. And maybe you're wondering, how can you put this into practice? How can you scale them down to your daily life? Because of course we are all directly involved in this food system, we all eat every day, but we need to make informed choices in order to create change. So where can we start from? And in my opinion, one good starting point could be with reading this book, so The Eating Planet. This is one of the efforts of the BCFN Foundation, and the new edition just came out a few months ago. I think it's really suitable for everyone because it includes a lot of infographics and easy explanation of all topics related to food sustainability. It has interviews and contributions of experts. And as Sarah said, also Danielle Nirenberg contributed to the book. Personally, I think it's a very enjoyable read. And there is a lot of good references also for a more academic audience. So you will find citations of scientific articles that you can, of course, then go and read if you are interested in deepening your knowledge on a specific subject. You can find it also on Amazon, and I totally recommend it because I think it gives a very good comprehensive picture of what today's food system is about and what you need to know in order to make choices that would be as informed as possible. I would like to end my presentation and my webinar with you with my personal call to action, because I think even just in this presentation, like a lot of concepts have been presented and they give an idea of the complexity of the food system. And I know this can be overwhelming at times, but I would like to encourage everyone not to be humbled or frightened by this, but to feel challenged and to get curious about what you can do to improve the status of things. Because I really think that a sustainable food system is possible, and if we all start to know it better and care about it more, then that's when good change will happen. And of course, if you want to know more, you can also come to the next BCFN forum. It will be held in Milan on the 1st of December. you are of course more than welcome to come in person, but if you cannot do that, you can also watch the online streaming from the BCFN website. And I thank you all for your attention. I hope this has been interesting for you. You can find more information from the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition website, and you can also drop me a line if you feel like it. And of course, now I'm ready to answer all your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you for an informative presentation and for digging a little deeper into what you do at BCFN and the Alumni Association, as well as some of the moving parts as well. So we do have questions from our listeners. So for the next 10 to 15 minutes, let's just get through as many as we can. So I'd like to start by asking you a question from our listener. It reads, how do the younger generations become more heard? How do we amplify our voices or come together as a unified voice for telling policymakers and governments what change we demand? Have you seen examples of this that have been successful?
Yeah, actually, I think a good starting point could be right in the environment where young people and young researchers, students are most active. So in universities, campuses, and so on. Because I think that if students start to demand change right in the environment where they spend most of their time, that's already a good start. I think that's a good starting point, and I know there are good examples of that. So, for example, students demanding more sustainable food in their canteen, better food policies for the campus or the university that they are attending. I think that can be one starting point, and then, you know, these examples can then little by little scale up. So if more, for example, if more universities start to adopt certain policies, then this could little by little scale up to be maybe national policies. I think, of course, it's not easy. It's not easy, but I think small steps can really lead to positive change. And I think also like that young people should not be scared or afraid to make suggestions and to have their voice heard. That's my opinion.
That's great advice. Thanks, Francesca. Our next question reads, what are some of the most exciting ways or stories you have seen of youths coming together to create a more sustainable food system that addresses the duality of hunger and obesity?
I cannot think like of a concrete example, right, like on the top of my head. So young people bringing about change for obesity and malnutrition. That was the question, right? I don't know. I cannot think like of a concrete example, but I think probably there might be very good examples in relation to what I was discussing before. So young people asking for better nutrition in the environment where they are living. So asking for better nutrition, maybe asking also for opportunities to have a healthier lifestyle in the place where they are living. I think that can probably be quite positive. I don't have one specific example, but I would look in the same area.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we have two similar questions here. So the first one comes from our listener, Abir, and he wants to know, how can we work with you at BCFN? And if we have ideas or research proposals, is it only through BCFN Yes that we can submit them, or is there another way? And then another listener wants to know, how can we learn more about the Yes competition, and when is the next one?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my presentation, this year's Yes competition has just closed because the deadline for submitting projects was at the end of July. So we now have the projects under evaluation for this year, but of course it will most likely open again next year. Usually it's around springtime. So I think my suggestion in that case is just to look at the BCFN website and maybe subscribe to the newsletter, connect through social media, and stay tuned in a way for the news about the next edition of the competition. For sure, I think that's the best way to get in contact with BCFN. And of course, they can get in contact, and maybe another way would be to ask, they can ask also directly from me, if there would be already alumni in the area where these people are from, and how they could connect with them. And I think it would be very interesting to have local events. So if there is someone interested from, let's say, Poland, for example, they can maybe try and check with me if there is any of the alumni from that country. And then we could try and organize something in their country if that could be interesting for them. So I think that could be a start. But for sure, I mean, the Young Her Solutions competition is the one to go for. And you can find more information on the website. There is a section of the website that is dedicated to that.
Great, thank you. And our next question kind of expands upon the Alumni Association as well. So it reads, how far-reaching is the Alumni Association? How many countries around the world? Are alumni only finalists of BCFN, yes, or are there other ways to get involved?
Yeah, no, to answer the second part of the question, no, it's only through the YES competition that you can become one of the alumni. At the moment, we have alumni from I think it was around 30 countries, and we have also 6 geographical representatives. So we have 6 different areas. We have North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. So we have one of the alumni that is leading the initiatives for each of these areas. So I think we cover very well all the 5 continents, and we try to organize events in all the areas where the alumni are.
Great, and expanding on that further, we have a listener who wants to know a little more about you. So they ask, what does your day-to-day work and goals look like now after becoming a BCFN finalist? Or alternatively, what are some examples of progress from winners?
Yeah, actually, now I was just thinking, going back to one of the questions that was asked before about examples of projects of young people dealing with obesity or malnutrition. We have one of the finalists of the BCFN YES competition, Gianna Bonis Profumo. She was a finalist in 2014, and she's now implementing a project in Timor-Leste. And her project wants to deliver good information, nutritional information to women in that area. So to use also permaculture principles to create an integrated environment for food production and delivery of information about food nutritional values. So I think that's one example. And we have others as well. We have alumni that started by presenting their idea in the competition and then continued by developing their idea into a business. We have examples of that. Personally, I'm dealing with different projects at the moment. So I'm involved in this, but I'm also finishing my PhD on the topics of meat consumption and the environmental impacts of meat consumption. That's one thing. And I would like to set up maybe also my own company doing life cycle assessments. And I really want to be involved in a number of things. That's also one of the things that is reflected in my PhD. I've done I haven't focused on my research maybe 100%, which has led me to be a bit more slow with my progress. But on the other hand, it has added so much to my work as a researcher, because I've been also involved in I've been a volunteer for this association. It's called Arbio, and it aims at increasing the resilience of the Amazon rainforest in Peru to the interoceanic highway through sustainable agriculture in the Amazon rainforest. That's one thing that I've been involved in. I've been doing data analysis for my research. I've been working with BCFN also on some research projects, and of course being the president of the BCFN Alumni Association. So I've had like many different dimensions coming into my work, and I'm very happy about it, because I think all these different dimensions are needed in order to understand what is actually going on and be able to contribute as much as possible. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great, Francesca. Thank you. So Scott in Chicago says he's trying to enhance partnerships between urban ag with local food pantries by providing food waste, stuff that pantries rescue that is unfit for human consumption, to growers for composting. So I'm just going to read that again. He is trying to enhance partnerships between urban ag with local food pantries by providing food waste to growers for composting. So he wants to know if you or I have any examples of this in the US or Europe.
No, personally, I don't. Personally, I don't. But of course, if we can try to find something, some case studies, we can also harness the knowledge of our alumni. So if he's interested in having some case studies about this, I invite him to drop me a line, and we can try and ask our alumni if they have some specific case studies to report about this. I think that could be one way.
Yeah, that's great, Francesca. And I would just tell Scott too that we may have some examples of that on foodtank.com as well. There's a search bar if you want to look for some of the stories and organizations, partnerships that we've written about in the past, but definitely connecting with Francesca as well. So our next question reads, can you speak more about the double pyramid? How does this become reflected in other countries and around the world, as well as through food business?
Sorry, can you repeat the second part of the question?
Of course, yes. There's some background noise in Colorado today. So the question reads, can you speak more about the double pyramid? How does this become reflected in other countries and around the world, as well as through food business?
Yeah, of course, what was shown, for example, in my slide, the food pyramid is inspired mainly by the Mediterranean diet. But of course, I think that then again, if you look at the environmental pyramid, and if you look at the publications that the BCFN has dedicated to double pyramid on the website, then you find much more detailed information about the foodstuffs that are included in the environmental pyramid, and for example, water footprint or carbon footprint or ecological footprint of each of them. There is also like a large database that you can consult about that. So I think there you can find more detailed information that might reflect better like the food choices of other countries far from the Mediterranean area. How it can be scaled down to business, I mean, that was exactly one of the things that I thought of when I presented my idea in the YES competition in 2012. So I really wanted to deliver this information in the place where it's needed, which is at the supermarket when people are buying their food. That's when people need to know, is this thing good for me? How much should I eat? Is this good for the environment? And how bad is it? So I think that if the double pyramid has to be included in business operations, of course. Probably my idea for the food label is, I don't know how viable it is, but for example, having information displayed in that form somewhere, I think that could be valuable. I'm once again thinking of, for example, canteens or restaurants or other places, other dining facilities. I think that's another way that food businesses could use to deliver information about the contents of the double pyramid. So I think just sharing the information where it's possible would be useful. I hope that answers the question.
Great, thanks, Francesca. And so our next question is a hard one, but also a really interesting one. This listener wants to know, what does a sustainable food system look like to you?
Yeah, that's a good one, and it's very complex. I think it probably depends also about what scale we are talking about. Are we talking like a very local system, or do you mean like a sustainable global food system? Because I think that there is really a lot of issues to be taken into account. There is maybe even issues that might have a counterintuitive effect. So, for example, even the issue that I deal with in my PhD, which is meat consumption, I think even that issue is quite controversial. So, for example, if the more industrialized countries, which at the moment are eating really high levels of meat, if they would lower their meat consumption, I don't know, would that then create, for example, an easier access in other areas of the world? So would that result overall in an increased meat consumption? I think it's very it's possible, unless you provide the developing countries. I mean, those countries that are now looking at higher consumption levels of meat as something desirable, with the information about the environmental impact, the health impacts, and so on. So this is one example, but I think it underlines really how big is the complexity and how hard it is to define what a sustainable food system is. I think, of course, for my personal experience, my personal view on the issue is that I would like to see less complexity. So I would like to see something that is more similar to what it used to be. And I think it's possible if people accept the idea that we maybe don't need to eat as much as we do now. We maybe don't need to eat that big variety that we have accessible in our supermarkets now. We don't maybe need to eat the same things necessarily all year round, and so on. I think this would create something that a food system that would be simpler and hopefully more sustainable as well. But also, I'm afraid that, like, this is just my personal opinion, and I'm afraid that the degree of complexity is so high that I don't have a clear answer. I think that the changes that we make are needed. The changes that we want to make are needed. But I also think that they need to be monitored, and monitored very carefully, in order to assess that on a bigger scale, we are actually solving the problems and not creating additional problems. I hope this is clear enough.
Thanks, Francesca. I think that's a question that we could talk about for days and days and days. So thank you. I appreciate your insight. So our last question is just a simple one. Where can you buy the Eating Planet book? But I'd like to just add on to that and open it up to you and see if there's any other information that you'd like to add for our listeners today or other places to get more resources.
I think, well, for sure, I think Amazon is the most globally available channel through which the Eating Planet can be bought. It can be bought both in paper and also as ebook there. It's available also in some libraries, but I don't have an overview of where exactly. At least I think US and Italy for sure. But I don't know if you, Sarah, have other information, for example, also about distribution through Food Tank. At least I think at the Food Tank summits, it should be available.
Right, yeah, we'll have around 100 available for sale and purchase at the Farm Tank Summit, which is coming up just this month in Sacramento, September 22nd and 23rd, but also available at our forthcoming summits as well. So if anyone happens to be in those areas, they can purchase there. Otherwise, I think Amazon's a great suggestion as well. Anything else you want to add today, Francesca?
Not right now. I've been just really happy. I think also the questions have been really interesting, and I hope that I've been able to answer them properly. It's been really, really challenging to have this kind of feedback through the questions. So I thank you very much for the opportunity. It was very good for me.
Great. So we're out of time for today, but thanks again, Francesca, and thanks to all of our listeners for sending in their questions. It's really been a pleasure having this conversation and having the ability to do it with our webinar series. We do have another webinar tomorrow, so 2 this week, and it will be with Baldor Specialty Foods, so that should also be a really interesting conversation on how to reduce food waste as a continuation maybe to this conversation as well. So thank you again for your time, Francesca, and thanks to everyone else again. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.